Jason's lawyer stood at the witness box and asked him to describe my mental state during the custody dispute. Jason leaned forward and said, "Emma admitted the anger scares her when Lily cries at bedtime." His voice was calm and rehearsed. I felt my chest tighten because those were my exact words. I said them 2 weeks ago in session 15. I never told anyone else. Not my sister. Not Monica. Only Dr. Powell heard me say that. Monica sat beside me and leaned close. She whispered, "Did you tell Jason that?" I shook my head. She stared at the witness stand, and her jaw clenched. She whispered again, "Then how does he know?" I reached into my bag and felt the purple journal under my fingertips. My mother gave it to me 3 years ago. She told me truth doesn't change when you write it down. I opened it during the recess and flipped to session 15. March 27th. I wrote, "Told Powell the anger scares me when Lily cries at bedtime." Same structure, same words. Jason's testimony wasn't a lucky guess. Someone told him what I said in therapy. Someone gave him my words to use against me. The divorce was finalized 8 months ago. The judge ordered us both into therapy because Jason claimed I was unstable. He said I yelled at Lily. He said I threw a plate during an argument. The plate part was true, but it was his plate, and he had just told me he wanted full custody. The court assigned Dr. Powell randomly. That's what the clerk told me. She said his name came up in the rotation and he had availability. I met him 3 days later in his office on Maple Street. He had gray hair and wire glasses, and he nodded while I talked. He said he understood how hard divorce was. He said anger was normal and I shouldn't feel ashamed. I felt like someone finally believed me. I started seeing him every Tuesday at 4 in the afternoon. I told him about the marriage. I told him about Jason's control. I told him how Jason tracked my phone and questioned my receipts and made me feel like I was always doing something wrong. Dr. Powell took notes on a yellow pad. He said Jason sounded like a classic narcissist. He said I was right to leave. I cried in session 3 because I hadn't heard anyone say that before. My mother told me to keep my own notes. She said therapists were human and memories fade. She said truth doesn't change when you write it down, so I should write everything down. She gave me a purple journal with a cloth cover. I started recording every session the night I got home. I wrote the date and the session number and everything I could remember. I wrote what I said and what Dr. Powell said. I wrote how I felt walking out. I kept it in my nightstand drawer under a stack of books. Session 12 was the first time I mentioned the anger. I told Dr. Powell that Lily cried at bedtime and sometimes I felt rage instead of patience. I told him I never hurt her, but the feeling scared me. He said that was honest and brave. I wrote it down that night. March 13th. Session 12. Told Powell the anger scares me, but I would never hurt Lily. I underlined the word never twice. Session 15 was worse. Lily had a tantrum at the grocery store and I felt my hands shake. I wanted to scream at her, but I didn't. I held it in until we got home, and then I cried in the bathroom. I told Dr. Powell about it on Tuesday. I said the anger scares me when Lily cries at bedtime. He nodded and said I was doing the right thing by recognizing the pattern. He said we would work through it together. I believed him. That night in the courtroom, I sat on the bench and listened to Jason repeat my words. Monica whispered her question and I couldn't answer. The recess came 10 minutes later. Monica went to talk to the bailiff and I pulled out the purple journal. I flipped through the pages until I found session 15. March 27th. I read my handwriting. Told Powell the anger scares me when Lily cries at bedtime. The structure was identical. The phrasing was identical. Jason didn't paraphrase. He used my exact language. I flipped back to session 12. Anger scares me, but I would never hurt Lily. Jason's lawyer had asked him about my temper earlier. Jason said Emma told her therapist the anger scares her, but she would never hurt Lily. Same sentence, same structure. He didn't summarize my feelings. He quoted my private confession. I checked session 17. April 10th. I told Dr. Powell that I worried Lily would remember me as angry instead of loving. Jason's testimony from last week included the phrase, worried Lily would remember her as angry. Not a coincidence, not a guess. Someone gave him my therapy notes. Someone gave him my exact words, and he used them to take my daughter. Monica came back and sat beside me. I showed her the journal. I pointed to session 15 and the court transcript. She read both, and her face went pale. She said, "This is a HIPAA violation." Her voice was low but sharp. She said we need to know how he got this. I asked her if Dr. Powell could have told him. She said therapists don't just hand over notes. She said there had to be money or collusion or both. She said we were filing a motion in the morning. I went home that night and sat at the kitchen table. I spread the court transcript across the surface. I opened the purple journal beside it. I went through every page. Sessions 10 through 18. I found 4 more matches. Session 10. Jason made me feel like I was always wrong. Jason's testimony, Emma said. I made her feel like she was always wrong. Session 14. I worry I'm failing as a mother. Jason's testimony. She told Dr. Powell she was failing as a mother. Session 16. I threw the plate because I felt cornered. Jason's testimony. She admitted throwing the plate when she felt cornered. The matches weren't paraphrases. They were identical concepts in identical order. Jason didn't have access to my feelings. He had access to my sessions. Someone transcribed my private pain and handed it to him. Someone weaponized my healing against me. I looked at the clock. 1:47 in the morning. I called Monica. She answered on the 3rd ring and her voice was tired. I said, it's not just session 15, it's 7 sessions. She was quiet for 3 seconds. Then she said, send me photos of every match. I'm subpoenaing Powell's financial records tomorrow morning. If Jason paid him, we'll find it. I hung up and stared at the journal. My mother's advice echoed in my head. Truth doesn't change when you write it down. I had written the truth every week for 4 months. Now the truth was going to prove someone violated me. Someone sold my words. Someone thought I wouldn't notice. Monica called 3 weeks later. She said the subpoena came back. Dr. Powell's bank record showed $8,000 from Jason's LLC over 6 months. The deposits started 2 weeks before my first therapy session. They came every 2 weeks after that. 18 deposits total, $444 each. I did the math in my head. 18 sessions, $444 per session. Jason paid Dr. Powell $8,000 while I sat in that office and cried about my marriage. Monica said the dates matched perfectly. First deposit, January 8th. My first session, January 23rd. Last deposit, June 19th. My last session, June 27th. She said this wasn't a coincidence. She said this was a business arrangement. I asked her what we do next. She said we subpoena his email. She said if Jason paid him, then they communicated. She said people who think they're smart always leave a trail. The court ordered Powell to turn over his work email within 10 days. Dr. Powell's lawyer argued the emails were privileged. Monica stood up in the hearing and said, privilege doesn't cover conspiracy to commit fraud. The judge agreed. He gave Powell's IT department 48 hours to unlock the encrypted folders. They found a folder labeled J_consultation. 14 emails. Monica brought printouts to her office and spread them on the conference table. I sat across from her and stared at the pages. The first email was dated January 5th, 3 weeks before my first session. Jason's email said, I need her to admit she's unstable. Can you get her to say she's violent? Dr. Powell responded 6 hours later. Patience. Building trust takes time. I'll guide the sessions toward anger management. She'll open up if she feels safe. I read that line 4 times. She'll open up if she feels safe. He planned it. He knew what he was doing from the beginning. March 12th, the day after session 12. Dr. Powell emailed Jason. Progress today. Emma discussed anger when daughter cries. Direct quote, the anger scares me, but I would never hurt Lily. Transcript attached. I looked at Monica and my voice broke. I said, he sent Jason a transcript. She nodded. She said the attachment was a Word document, session notes, verbatim quotes, timestamps, everything I said in that room, everything I trusted him with. He packaged it and sent it to my ex-husband 6 hours after I left his office. March 29th. 2 days after session 15. Powell's email to Jason, another breakthrough. Emma admitted the anger scares her when Lily cries at bedtime. Exact phrasing. She's building the case for you. Keep paying on schedule. I felt my hands go numb. She's building the case for you. I wasn't his patient. I was his project. I was his project. Monica pointed to an email from May 2nd. Jason wrote, Lucky I found you. Emma still trusts you, Lowell. Dr. Powell responded, Emma will never know. I've done this before. Encrypted email is safe. Court can't access it without probable cause. I stared at that sentence. I've done this before. Monica said we're filing a complaint with the medical board today. She said we're also filing a motion to reopen the custody case with fraud evidence. She said Powell violated HIPAA and conspired to manipulate a court proceeding. She said that's a felony. I asked her if he'd go to jail. She said probably. She said the DA's office already called her. They want to bring charges. Breach of confidentiality. Conspiracy to obstruct justice. She said he's looking at 2 to 5 years. I didn't feel relief. I felt hollow. Monica hired a private investigator the next week. She said we needed to prove Jason and Powell met in person. The investigator found gym security footage. March 8th. Dr. Powell and Jason at a gym 40 miles outside the city. They sat in the corner near the weights and talked for 47 minutes. May 14th. Same gym. Another meeting. 32 minutes. The footage was grainy, but you could see their faces. You could see Jason hand Powell a manila envelope. The investigator said the envelope was thick. Probably cash. Probably the payment Jason didn't want traced to his account. Monica added the footage to the evidence file. She said, this proves premeditation. She said Jason didn't stumble into this. He hunted for a therapist willing to betray doctor-patient privilege. He found Dr. Powell and paid him $8,000 to destroy me. I asked how he found Powell. She said we don't know yet. She said maybe Powell advertised. Maybe he had a reputation. Maybe Jason asked around and someone gave him a name. She said people like Powell always have a network. I asked if we could find out who else he did this to. She said that's the medical board's job now. The board scheduled a hearing for 6 months out. Monica said that was fast for them. She said Powell's lawyer tried to delay, but the board chair refused. She said the evidence was too damning. She said they wanted him gone. I went back to Monica's office 2 weeks later to review the complaint. She handed me the email printouts again. I read the March 12th email. I'm building her trust. I stared at those words until they blurred. He sat across from me in that office with the gray hair and wire glasses. He nodded while I cried. He said I was brave. He said I was right to leave. And 6 hours later, he sent my words to Jason. He called it progress. He called it a breakthrough. He turned my healing into evidence. I wanted to feel angry, but I just felt tired. Monica asked if I was okay. I said I don't know. She said that's fair. I asked her if Jason knew this whole time. She said yes. She said the emails prove he orchestrated it. He paid Powell before I ever sat in that office. He knew what Powell would do. He knew I'd trust him. He knew I'd break down and confess my fears. That was the plan. I thought about session 3. The first time I cried in therapy. I told Dr. Powell I felt like I was drowning. He handed me a tissue and said it's okay to feel lost. I believed him. I thought someone finally understood. Jason read the transcript that night and probably smiled. Monica said we're ready to move forward. She said the board hearing is in 4 months. She said Jason's custody case will reopen after that. She said we're going to win both. I asked her how she knew. She said because they didn't think you'd check. They didn't think you'd keep notes. They thought I was too broken to fight back. They were wrong. Monica called me on a Thursday morning in July. She said the court auditor found something. She said they were reviewing the therapist assignment system after our fraud complaint. They found a payment from Jason to Linda Hayes. $3,000. Linda Hayes was the court clerk who assigned Dr. Powell to my case. I sat down on my kitchen floor. I said, what does that mean? Monica said it means the assignment wasn't random. Jason paid Linda Hayes to put Dr. Powell's name at the top of the rotation. He paid her before the judge even ordered us into therapy. He set this up before I knew I needed a therapist. The auditor pulled Linda's records. She accessed the therapist pool database on January 4th. She moved Dr. Powell from position 47 to position 1. She marked him as next available. When the judge ordered therapy on January 6th, the system automatically assigned Powell. It looked random. It was designed. It was purchased. Monica said Linda did this 4 times in 2023 and 2024. 4 different custody cases. 4 different therapists. The auditor found payments ranging from $2,000 to $5,000. Linda took money and manipulated the assignment system. She sold access to vulnerable people. She sold me to Dr. Powell. I asked Monica how Jason knew to pay Linda. She said Linda probably had a reputation. She said corrupt clerks don't advertise, but they tell people. Someone told Jason that Linda Hayes could arrange things. Someone told him she had access to the therapist database. Jason paid her $3,000 and she delivered Dr. Powell. The payment cleared on December 28th, 2 weeks before the judge ordered therapy. Jason knew the order was coming. His lawyer probably told him. He prepared. He found Linda Hayes. He found Dr. Powell. He paid them both and waited for me to walk into the trap. Monica said the court fired Linda on Tuesday. She said they referred her case to the DA. She said Linda's facing bribery charges and conspiracy. She said the DA wants to charge her separately from Powell. I asked if she'd go to jail. Monica said, probably. She said judges don't forgive people who corrupt their courtrooms. The media picked up the story on Friday. Local news ran a segment called Court Clerk Sold Custody Cases. They didn't use my name. They called me a mother who discovered the scheme. They interviewed a legal ethics professor who said this was systemic corruption. They said it undermined trust in family court. I watched the segment on my phone. The anchor said Linda Hayes manipulated at least 4 cases. They said more victims might come forward. They showed a photo of the courthouse. They showed a graphic that said $3,000 bribe. I turned it off. I didn't want to see my pain turned into a headline. Monica sent me another email that night. She said the investigator found text messages between Jason and Dr. Powell. The messages were from May. Jason's phone backed up to the cloud, and his lawyer had to turn it over during discovery. One message stood out. Jason wrote, "Emma still trusts you, Lowell." Dr. Powell responded, "She'll never know. I've done this before. Encrypted systems are safe." Jason wrote back, "You're a genius." Powell wrote, "No, I'm just careful." The hubris was breathtaking. They thought they were untouchable. They thought encryption meant invisibility. They were wrong. Monica said the texts prove consciousness of guilt. She said they knew what they were doing was illegal. She said they bragged about it. She said juries hate that. I asked if we're going to trial. She said probably not. She said Powell's malpractice insurance will settle. She said they don't want this in front of a jury. The medical board hearing was scheduled for 6 months out. That meant January. Monica said we'd have the custody case reopened by February. She said everything was moving faster than normal. She said the court was embarrassed. She said they wanted to prove they take corruption seriously. I asked her what happens to Powell. She said the board will revoke his license. She said the DA will charge him with conspiracy and breach of confidentiality. She said he's looking at 2 to 5 years in prison. She said his career is over. I said good. She said, I know. I thought about Linda Hayes. I wondered if she felt guilty. I wondered if she thought about the 4 mothers whose cases she sold. I wondered if she spent the money. I wondered if it was worth it. Monica said Linda's lawyer tried to argue she was just helping people get good therapists. The judge laughed at him. The court implemented a new system in August, software-based random assignment. No human override. Monica said it was a direct response to our case. She said they called it the Transparency Protocol. She said every assignment would be logged and audited. She said what happened to me wouldn't happen again. I wanted to feel proud. I wanted to feel like I'd fixed something. I just felt tired. I kept thinking about January 5th, Jason's email. I need her to admit she's unstable. He wrote that 3 weeks before I sat in Dr. Powell's office. He decided I was the enemy before I ever met his hired therapist. Monica said the board hearing was in 4 months. She said I'd have to testify. She said I'd have to read the emails out loud. She said I'd have to face Dr. Powell in the hearing room. I told her I didn't know if I could do that. She said, you already did the hard part. You found the truth. I went to the courthouse the next week to request copies of all the records. The clerk handed me a folder that was 3 inches thick. Transcripts, emails, bank statements, text messages, gym footage stills. I carried it to my car and sat in the parking lot. I opened the folder and stared at the first page. Jason's email from January 5th. I need her to admit she's unstable. Can you get her to say she's violent? I closed the folder. I put it in the trunk. I drove home and tried not to think about how long he'd been planning this. I tried not to think about how much he hated me. I tried not to think about what kind of person pays $8,000 to weaponize someone's therapy. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. Because he didn't just want to win custody. He wanted to prove I was broken. He wanted the court to see me as unstable. He wanted me to believe it too. That was the cruelty. He didn't just want my daughter. He wanted me to think I didn't deserve her. Monica texted me that night. She said the board sent Powell a notice. She said he has 30 days to respond. She said his lawyer would probably try to argue he was acting in Lily's best interest. She said the board wouldn't buy it. She said Powell's done. I texted back, okay. She texted, you did this. Don't forget. I looked at the purple journal on my nightstand. Truth doesn't change when you write it down. My mother was right. I wrote the truth every Tuesday night for 4 months. I wrote it because I wanted to remember. I didn't know I was building evidence. I didn't know those notes would be the thing that saved me. But they did. Jason and Dr. Powell thought I wouldn't keep records. They thought I was too overwhelmed to pay attention. They thought grief and exhaustion would blind me. They were wrong. I noticed. I checked. I fought back. And now they were both facing consequences they didn't think were possible. The board hearing was in January. I had 4 months to prepare, 4 months to practice reading those emails without my voice shaking, 4 months to get ready to sit in a room with the man who sold my pain for $444 per session. Monica said I didn't have to be strong. She said I just had to be honest. I could do that. I'd been doing it all along. The medical board hearing was scheduled for January 9th. Monica met me outside the building at 8:30 in the morning. She carried 2 briefcases. One had the evidence, one had her notes. She said the board already reviewed everything. She said today was about putting Powell on record. She said he'd have to answer for what he did. The hearing room was smaller than I expected. 10 chairs. A long table for the board members. A witness table in the center. Dr. Powell sat at the defense table with his lawyer. He wore a gray suit and kept his eyes on the table. He didn't look at me when I walked in. I was glad. The board chair was a woman named Dr. Adrienne Cole. She had white hair pulled back in a bun and glasses on a chain. She called the hearing to order at 9 o'clock. She said the board reviewed the complaint against Dr. Jonathan Powell. She said the evidence showed violations of HIPAA and conspiracy to defraud. She said Dr. Powell would have a chance to respond. Monica presented first. She showed the bank records, $8,000 over 6 months. She showed the emails, 14 messages coordinating the betrayal. She showed the gym footage, 2 in-person meetings. She showed the text messages. Emma still trusts you, lol. The board members took notes. One woman shook her head. Then Monica called me to testify. I sat at the witness table and put my hands in my lap. She asked me to describe my therapy with Dr. Powell. I said I trusted him. I said I told him things I didn't tell anyone else. I said he made me feel safe enough to admit my fears. Monica handed me the email from March 12th. She asked me to read it out loud. I looked at the page. My hands shook, but my voice stayed steady. I read progress today. Emma discussed anger when daughter cries. Direct quote, "The anger scares me, but I would never hurt Lily." Transcript attached. I looked up. Dr. Powell still wouldn't meet my eyes. Monica asked how it felt to read that email. I said it felt like someone reached into my chest and stole something I couldn't get back. I said I told him those words in private. I said he was supposed to help me heal. Instead, he turned my confession into a weapon. My voice cracked on the word weapon, but I kept going. She asked if I knew Jason was paying Dr. Powell. I said no. I said the court told me the assignment was random. I said I had no reason to suspect Dr. Powell was reporting to my ex-husband. I said I thought therapy was supposed to be confidential. I said I thought I was safe. Monica sat down. Dr. Powell's lawyer stood up. He was a man in his 50s with slicked back hair. He asked if I was aware Dr. Powell had concerns about my mental stability. I said no. He asked if I admitted to anger issues in therapy. I said I admitted to normal feelings that scared me. I said that's what therapy is for. He asked if I ever considered that Dr. Powell was acting in Lily's best interest. I stared at him. I said Dr. Powell was acting in his bank account's best interest. I said he took $8,000 to violate my privacy. I said that's not child welfare, that's fraud. Monica nodded from her seat. The lawyer asked if I had proof Dr. Powell intended to harm me. I said yes. I said he emailed Jason 6 hours after every session. I said he called my pain progress. I said he wrote, "Emma will never know," in a text message. I said, that's proof. The lawyer sat down. Dr. Powell testified next. His lawyer asked him why he communicated with Jason. Powell said he believed he was protecting a child. He said Emma showed signs of instability. He said he felt obligated to share his concerns. His voice was calm and measured. He sounded like he believed it. Monica stood up for cross-examination. She held up the bank records. She asked Dr. Powell if child welfare consultations usually cost $444 per session. He said the fee was standard. She asked if standard consultations include verbatim transcripts of therapy sessions. He didn't answer. She asked him to explain the text message. Emma still trusts you, Lowell. She asked what part of that message suggested child welfare. Powell said it was taken out of context. Monica asked what context makes bragging about a patient's trust acceptable. He said he didn't mean it that way. She asked how he meant it. He said he couldn't remember. Monica asked if he disclosed the financial arrangement to me. He said no. She asked if he disclosed it to the court. He said no. She asked if he disclosed it to his malpractice insurance. He said no. She asked why not. He said he didn't think it was necessary. She asked if he thought $8,000 from a custody opponent was necessary to disclose. He said nothing. Dr. Cole stood up from the board table. She removed her glasses. She said, Dr. Powell, you violated HIPAA and the sacred trust between therapist and patient. She said you accepted payment to weaponize a healing space. She said you turned private confessions into court evidence. She said you did this knowingly and repeatedly. Her voice was loud and sharp. She said the board reviewed your file. She said we found a complaint from 2019. A mother claimed you shared her therapy notes with her ex-husband. She said the complaint was dismissed for lack of evidence. She said now we know she was telling the truth. She said you've been doing this for years. Dr. Cole said this board exists to protect the public. She said you are a danger to vulnerable people. She said your license is revoked effective immediately. She said we are referring your case to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. She said you will never practice therapy in this state again. Powell's face went white. The hearing ended at 11:45. Monica packed her briefcases. I stood in the hallway and tried to process what just happened. Powell's license was gone. He'd never sit across from another patient. He'd never take notes on a yellow pad and pretend to care. He was done. Monica said the DA already filed charges. Breach of confidentiality. Conspiracy to obstruct justice. She said the sentencing guidelines suggest 2 to 5 years. She said his malpractice insurance wants to settle the civil case. She said they're offering $250,000. I asked if that's a lot. She said it's enough to prove you were right. We walked toward the exit. Powell stood near the elevators with his lawyer. His lawyer was talking fast, and Powell just stared at the floor. I walked past him. He glanced up. Our eyes met for half a second. He looked away. I didn't need him to look at me. I didn't need an apology. I just needed him gone. Monica said 3 other women came forward after the news coverage. She said they all had similar stories. Custody disputes, court-ordered therapy, Dr. Powell assigned to their cases, therapy notes showing up in their ex-husband's court filings. She said the 2019 complaint is being reopened. She said there's talk of a class action lawsuit. I asked what happens now. Monica said we reopen your custody case. She said we present the fraud evidence. She said we show the judge that Jason paid for false testimony. She said we get Lily back. I said when? She said 8 weeks. The custody hearing is in March. I left the building and sat in my car. I thought about Dr. Powell sitting in that hearing room. I thought about his face when Dr. Cole stood up. I thought about the moment he realized he wasn't going to talk his way out. He spent years thinking he was smarter than everyone. He thought encryption made him invisible. He thought vulnerable women wouldn't fight back. He was wrong about all of it. And now his career was over. His freedom was next. I started the car and drove home. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt one step closer to getting my daughter back. That was enough. The custody hearing was scheduled for March 14th. 8 weeks after the medical board revoked Powell's license, Monica filed a motion to reopen the case in January. She attached the bank records, she attached the emails, she attached the board's ruling, she attached Powell's criminal indictment. The judge approved the motion in 3 days. Jason's lawyer withdrew 2 weeks before the hearing. Monica said the lawyer probably didn't want his name attached to fraud. She said most lawyers won't represent clients who bribed court officials. Jason tried to hire 3 other attorneys. All 3 declined. He filed a motion to represent himself. The judge allowed it. I walked into the courtroom on March 14th at 9 in the morning. Monica sat beside me at the plaintiff's table. Jason sat alone at the defense table. He wore a suit, but no tie. His hair was longer than I remembered. He kept shuffling papers like he was looking for something that would save him. He wouldn't find it. Judge Torres entered at 9:15. She was the same judge who ordered the original custody arrangement. She was the same judge who believed Jason when he said I was unstable. She sat down and looked at both tables. Her face was hard. She said, "We're here to address new evidence of fraud in the original custody proceeding." Monica stood. She said, "Your Honor, the evidence shows Jason Caldwell paid Dr. Jonathan Powell $8,000 to violate Emma's therapy confidentiality. She said he paid court clerk Linda Hayes $3,000 to ensure Dr. Powell was assigned to this case. She said he orchestrated a scheme to manufacture evidence of Emma's instability. She said the medical board revoked Dr. Powell's license. She said the district attorney charged both Powell and Hayes with conspiracy. She said Jason's testimony in the original hearing was based on stolen therapy notes. She said every claim he made about Emma's mental state came from sessions he purchased access to. She said this was premeditated fraud." Judge Torres asked Jason if he wanted to respond. He stood up. He said, "Your Honor, I was acting in my daughter's best interest." He said I had concerns about Emma's ability to parent. He said Dr. Powell shared those concerns. His voice was steady, but his hands shook. The judge cut him off. She said, "Mr. Caldwell, you paid a therapist to violate doctor-patient privilege. She said you bribed a court official to manipulate the assignment system. She said you used this court as a weapon against your ex-wife." Her voice was cold and sharp. She said, "This isn't about your daughter's safety. This is about control." Jason tried to speak again. He said, "I only wanted what was best for Lily." Judge Torres stood up from the bench. She said, "No, Mr. Caldwell, she said you wanted to win. She said you wanted to destroy Emma's credibility. She said you weaponized the legal system because you couldn't accept that she left you. She said, I assigned you both to therapy because I believed it would help you co-parent. She said you turned that order into an opportunity to commit fraud. She said you made a mockery of this court. She said you made me an unwitting participant in your scheme." I could see her jaw clench. She was angry. Not at me. At him. Judge Torres sat down. She opened the file in front of her. She said, "I'm granting Emma full legal and physical custody effective immediately." She said, "Jason, you will have supervised visitation only. 2 hours per week at the County Family Services facility." She said, "You will pay Emma's legal fees in full. That's $47,000. She said, "You will also pay for Lily's therapy. $6,000 per year until she turns 18. She said, "You will have no say in her medical decisions, no say in her education, no say in where she lives." She said, "You forfeited those rights when you chose to weaponize this system." Jason stood up. He said, "Your Honor, that's not fair." Judge Torres stared at him. She said fair would be charging you with conspiracy alongside Dr. Powell. She said fair would be holding you in contempt for perjury. She said you're getting supervised visitation because Lily deserves to know her father. She said that's more grace than you showed Emma. She said if you violate the visitation terms once, I will terminate your parental rights. She said if you contact Emma outside the court-mandated co-parenting app, I will hold you in contempt. She said, if you try to manipulate the system again, I will make sure you never see Lily unsupervised. Do you understand? Jason nodded. His face was pale. Monica asked about the original custody evaluator. She said the evaluator relied on Dr. Powell's assessment. She said that assessment was fraudulent. Judge Torres said, I'm ordering a new evaluation with a court-appointed psychologist. She said the evaluation will be completed within 60 days. She said until then, Emma has full custody. The judge signed the order. She handed it to the bailiff. She said, this hearing is concluded. She stood up and left the courtroom. Jason sat at his table and stared at the papers in front of him. He didn't look at me. I didn't look at him. I just gathered my things and followed Monica out. We stood in the hallway. Monica said, you won. I said, I know. She said, Lily's coming home. I nodded. I felt my throat tighten, but I didn't cry. I'd cried enough. This was relief. This was proof that fighting back mattered. This was evidence that the system could correct itself even after it failed. Monica said Linda Hayes pled guilty last week. She said Hayes got 18 months probation and a permanent ban from working in any courthouse. She said the court also implemented new software for therapist assignments. She said no human can override the system now. She said it's random and audited. She said what happened to me can't happen again. I asked about Dr. Powell. Monica said his trial is in May. She said he's facing 2 to 5 years. She said the 3 other women joined the case. She said it's a pattern now. She said the DA is confident. I said good. She said you did this, Emma. You found the evidence. You kept the notes. You didn't let them bury you. I walked to my car. I sat in the driver's seat and pulled out my phone. I texted Monica, "Thank you for everything." She texted back, "You did the hard part." I texted, "It's over." She texted, "It's over. You won. Lily is safe." I stared at those words. Lily is safe. I started the car and drove home. I thought about Jason sitting alone at that defense table. I thought about him shuffling papers like he could find a loophole. I thought about the judge standing up. I thought about her voice when she said you wanted to win. She was right. He didn't care about Lily's safety. He cared about proving he could take her from me. He paid $11,000 to make me look unstable. He hired a corrupt therapist and a corrupt clerk. He built a conspiracy to destroy my credibility. He thought I was too broken to notice. He thought grief and exhaustion would blind me. He was wrong. I noticed everything. I wrote it down. I fought back. And now he had 2 hours per week in a supervised facility. Now he had $47,000 in legal fees. Now he had no say in Lily's life. Now he had to live with the fact that his scheme didn't just fail. It backfired. It cost him everything he was trying to steal from me. I pulled into my driveway. I sat in the car for a minute. I thought about picking up Lily from my sister's house. I thought about telling her she's staying with me now. I thought about the purple journal on my nightstand. Truth doesn't change when you write it down. My mother was right. The truth saved me. I got out of the car and went inside. I called my sister. I said I won. She said, "I know Monica texted me." I said, "I'm coming to get Lily." She said, "She's waiting for you." I hung up and grabbed my keys. I drove to my sister's house. Lily ran to the door when I knocked. She hugged my legs and said, "Mommy." I picked her up. I said, "You're coming home, baby." She said, "Forever." I said, "Forever." 2 years later, I became the advocacy director for the Therapy Abuse Survivors Network. The position paid $68,000 a year. I worked with legislators to draft Senate Bill 447. People started calling it Emma's Law. The bill required encrypted audit protocols for all court-mandated therapy. It passed in November. I spoke at a conference in April. The topic was institutional betrayal in family court. I showed a slide with Dr. Powell's mugshot. I showed the board's revocation letter. I showed the criminal sentencing order, 3 years in state prison. The audience was silent. I moved to the next slide and kept talking. I didn't feel rage anymore. I felt closure. Lily turned 8 last month. She's in 3rd grade now. She does gymnastics on Tuesdays and art class on Thursdays. Jason lives in Arizona. He sends birthday cards. Lily reads them and puts them in a drawer. She doesn't ask to call him. I don't push it. She'll decide what she needs when she's ready. Last week, Lily asked about the purple journal. She saw it on the shelf in my office. She asked why I kept it. I said, "It reminds me that truth doesn't change when you write it down." She asked what that means. I said it means if something happens, you should write it down so you remember it correctly later. She asked if she could have her own journal. I bought her a pink one with a cloth cover. She wrote her first entry yesterday. Today, Mom said I'm safe now. I believe her. I read it over her shoulder. I kissed the top of her head. I said, "You are safe, baby. I promise." The purple journal sits on the shelf now. The spine says 2023 to 2024. Lily's pink journal sits on the kitchen table. She leaves it open sometimes. I don't read it unless she shows me. It's hers, her thoughts, her truth. No one will ever weaponize it against her. Thank you for listening to this story. If you've experienced something similar, please know you're not alone. There are people fighting to change these systems. There are advocates who believe you. Subscribe to Daily Karma Reads for more stories every day. Take care of yourself.